Hello and welcome to this Project in a Box video session. In this session we're going to take a step further forward and look in detail at the piabx files and talk about GDPR. So let's go and do that. We are going to start in the browser interface again because the piabx files are an important part of how you can use the browser. So let's come in and firstly select the project that we're interested in. Just a representative sample list. All the new projects are available. Actually, the methods, the 1, 3, 4 and 5 step, and also the idea process are available either with Word templates or with piabx files. And so they look exactly the same from the navigation perspective, but when you come in and work on the project content, you'll find that the templates in here are piabx instead of Word documents. Now what that means is, of course, you can preview them as we would have done with the Word files, but you'll notice here that the options are different. So we have preview or edit, whereas with Word files we had preview or check out, and with a Word file we would have had to have checked it out, brought it onto the local machine, opened it in Word or a Word application to edit that and then check it back in again. Now the piabx files are designed to get around that so that you can edit them live in the browser if you want to, and they're designed to match the things that we find in most people's Word templates. So you can see as I preview the file here, it's got some standard headings and some description text and some sections for feeding things into. It's got property information here that's been fed in the last time the file was checked out, inserting properties based on content held for the project. And it can also export that out as well into other projects. It uses a header and a footer if we want it to, and a logo, and we've got obviously the footer down here. And that's how it looks in what we call preview mode. It reads like a Word file down the page. So if you've got a massive file, you're going to keep scrolling and reading the various sections. Now let's have a look at what happens when we edit it. Effectively what we're doing is we're checking it out, but it's been held on the server and opened for us to read within the and edit within the browser page, and then when we save it back in, it does that check-in process. So let's press edit, and you'll see it now goes into what we call edit mode, where the sections, the main sections of the document, are presented as tabs. Now this is designed specifically so you can jump to the section you want to work on and start working on it straight away. You don't have to go and scrolling through the file to find it. So we've got here an instruction section, so I might add a bit of further information to that, like that. We've already got a general info that was provided before, and actually in these templates the general info is set up to be exported as a property and then fed into the further files down the project. So your general description about the project is being reused in other documents. So just so we can see that, I'm just going to add some text at the beginning of it, so we'll see that come through when this is saved. So like I say, it's got a save mechanism, just like the check-in is doing really. When you save this back in, those changes are going to be made, and obviously we can jump through and work on other sections, and there's nothing to stop us at all if we want to, pasting blocks of text in. Depending on our browser, this is Latin text, and it's obviously supporting spell check against that. So it's going through filling in the sections, and you'll find that some of these of course can be for information only, they're not editable. So these are things sent by properties from the main system, and they can be quite big in the way that often feeding into Word you've only got 140 characters you can receive. Here you can receive a lot more than that. But these are we don't want these editing because they've been set up from the central project. So the piabx file is designed with those things in mind to protect the data in the areas you want it to. I could just save this back in as a new version. I can give it a description here if I want to, which feeds into the audit trail. So we'll do that here, and then I just do save, and that's now put it back in. And of course the preview that I get now has the additional information in that we might have added. We can see all that there. And if I wanted to see the full audit trail information, I can use advanced here and come down and see the audit trail and see who changed the file, when they changed it, what description they left, etc. Of course in advanced I can do normal view and check out and check in, check out to email, and all those other things that you'll be familiar with from Project in a Box in the past. But this basic view is about simple interactions for your typical team members. So they can come to a file, read it, and if they've got permissions, they can edit it. So that's pretty straightforward. Of course, it's fed some data into our central properties engine. And now if I come down to one of my later processes, and I might want to, for example, work on the appointments for this project. So I can see the appointments form here. Again, it's using a piabx file. It's set up with some information about the sort of roles that we might be putting in. It's got a table in here so that we can list any other roles in a sort of briefer form. And we can see it hasn't yet been checked out, so none of this content is filled in by the system. So when I come to edit this, of course, it's going to inject all those properties in for me, and it's gone, of course, tabular. So now I can say, well, I'm going to have an executive and a project manager and a user rep, perhaps, and then I can come to each section and fill in. So we can say like that, and then we've got date pickers for the particular dates we're interested in, so we'll put that in as today. Some notes on the role, and just the way we do a normal sort of template, but we've got those for each one. So each role, so we're going through filling those things out as we need to. As we mentioned in the table, we can come in and fill in the particular roles we want and dates and all the other sorts of notes. And as we mentioned, reference details is feeding in the content. Now these are the standard system project properties, if you like, but it's also fed in that project intro that we picked up from the mandate, including our extra term that we've added. So this is one of the key things. It's the sort of classic project briefcase, the classic project brief situation as we think about it. In that you start with a mandate and then you move on to a brief and then you move on to a PID, and that's about expanding and adding more detail to the information about the project. And often the sections are reused. Certainly in the way that many people build their templates, they reuse, and this allows you to do that. You can reuse sections and feed them forward into further documentation used in the project. So in these I methods, which use exclusively piabx files and planner files and Excel, you can work on those files, and all of that, whatever you put in the mandate in that section, will be fed forward like that for you. And you can alter these to add your own things if you want to feed out and feed forward. So it's pretty straightforward sort of idea. I'll just save that one back in, and like I say, we haven't had to come out of the browser at all, and of course that means that we can do this easily in the tablet on our smartphone, working on those pieces of content. And so for our team members, our typical team member whose interaction with the project we'd like to be as brief as possible, we want them busy doing the work, not necessarily filling in documentation. The ability to get here and read things easily using the preview pane, and then to be able to edit things without having to go and find the right tool and put in the basic sections that you want them to fill in. That's the idea of the piabx file, so you can work on it in the browser in the way that you can't easily in a Word file, because you've got to check it out and use it in a different app. So that's the most common use of piabx files. Like I say, there are these methods, the I methods as we are referring to them, have entirely piabx files, as well as the, like I say, Excel for some of the custom data sets like finances, etc., and SPN files for collecting obviously plans, risks and issues. These work by editing planner rather than edit, and these will open then in the built-in version of planner. We can see that's gone like that, and I can then come in and work on my task risk issue list, etc., updating that content as I want, and then save that, and that will save back in to the system. So it's a very similar idea to the piabx files. The planner data sets are generally much bigger, so we've taken it to a different page rather than doing it in page, but all those same things apply. So that's piabx files in the browser, and that's all just integrated in very nicely. Of course, you can use piabx files as well in the Windows application. So let's come down and find that same project. Now in the Windows application, for those users that use it, and we anticipate there being many less users that use the Windows application now, more will use the browser. The same thing applies here as it always has done. We're on a Windows environment, on a desktop. You're going to have something for opening your Word files and various other files. So we're not going to put edit live into the application here, or viewing. In fact, it will be done by opening in a separate application. So if I want to view this file, I double click on it, it comes and opens. Of course it has to have something to open its piabx files, and therefore we provide you now with a new piabx viewer. It's a bundled application that comes with the main system. You can install it separately if you want to. So if you want to send somebody these files to work on, you can get them to download the piabx viewer, or of course they can work on them online in the browser interface. Now the thing about this is, people often struggle a bit with Word files when they just view it and it opens in Word and they're reading it and they go, oh, that's not right, and they want to change something. Now Word will allow them to do that even though it's only a view only file. It's only when they try and save it that it tells them they're not supposed to do that. So in the piabx viewer we've built it in so that a viewed file, which is what I'm looking at here, is properly read only. I can copy the text out of here if I want to, but I can't change it. It's view only, and that's the case for all of the fields here. So that's very much a deliberate decision. If I want to check the file out instead, and you see here again we've got advanced for the full thing just like before, or simple, check out and view. So if I check out, this time of course it's going to follow all the normal checkout mechanism that we're used to for as Windows application users, and now we can see it opens in an edit mode like that. So I can do my change and save and close and check back in, and I've got all my other fields. Of course those that are properties fed are not editable at any point for these users in these tools because that data has been fed in, not updated here. So that's a pretty straightforward thing to do. So I say I can file, save, close. Of course in here I can read it in sort of Word type preview mode if I want to, like we had in the browser. I can use printing from here to print my content out as well. In this case though, I'm just going to check back in, and it's just the same check-in process as we've used before. It's just like using any other file. It just opens in the associated application. That application association is set up for you by the installer when it puts the piabx viewer on your machine. So it'll just always open in those things, like Word always opens in Word. So you do have these two routes. You can do in the browser, really straightforward, without any sort of working with other files. If you're in the Windows application, everything is about working with other files, opening in the appropriate tool, and it does that in the piabx viewer for you. We also have a piabx designer, so you can design your own piabx files if you want to, for your own method templates. I won't show you that now, we'll do that in another video. But that is here and available for you to use as well. So that's piabx files. Like I say, really designed to try and help you over the limitations that are in using Word as a template. So let's have a little think about GDPR. I mentioned in my sort of overview presentation that Project in a Box is really good for GDPR compliance. It's got search, so you can find references to people within documentation very easily. It's got a very detailed audit trail, so you can find out what things people have been working on and where people are appearing in audit trails. So all that information is very good for when people ask for requests about things. But it's also important for people to have given consent for their information to be being stored. Now we do store information for users, and if I come and click on my user form, everybody can click on and see their own user form, and they can see what information has been stored, email addresses perhaps, addresses, etc. And you'll see down here there's a new consent for GDPR form, and so users can come in and tick this to say that they've given consent. You can see from the system which users have and haven't done that, and that'll be available to feed reporting as well. And of course you want also all of your users really to give consent to their information being used, so access via the browser is going to be important for doing that as well, because most people are going to be employees, and therefore their consent might be given contractually, but it's when you're dealing with external partners and suppliers that you need to probably gain consent. And we've always had a user we call contact only, and those are users where we store an email address in the system for them, and we send them reminders and things like that. Now those users have never been able to log in previously, and it's important for them to be able to log in so that they can give their consent. And so now even contact users, only users can log in, and their only form they're able to then see, they're not able to see a project picker or anything. They can just come and see their user details up here, and again they can then give the consent for their information to be stored. So nothing particularly significant here, but it is a useful thing to be able to tick off as you go through your GDPR compliance activities. Okay, so I hope that was useful. Just to recap, we had a video at the beginning which was just a slides introduction to the various new areas of functionality. Then we had the first detailed video which looked at the browser, navigation, preview panes, etc. And then this video which is looking at piabx files and GDPR compliance. Of course, if you have any more detailed questions, you'd like to go through this with us in person, then just let us know and we could set up a session to do that. So I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much for your time.